Hi everyone, this is Cheryl and welcome to my sewing room. I'm going to talk to you about binding in this video. Over the last month I have put out two videos that are table toppers. They have these weird little angles on them. And at the end of the video I referred you to a video on how to do your binding if you did not know how. Unfortunately, the video I referred you to was this one, and it just had regular corners here. Nothing weird about it, very straightforward on how to do it. I forgot that the angles in this need to be addressed just slightly differently. So I want to apologize for that. This is table topper number 2, and then this is table topper number 3. So if you were trying to do these and you got stuck on the binding, this video will clear up all of that for you. So let's get started. I'm going to demonstrate how to cut out the binding. Now you always need to read your pattern instructions. If you're doing a different table topper other than what I've done, follow those instructions. I like to cut my binding out just a little bit wider because I find it easier to fold it over to the back and get it stitched down properly. So the first thing you want to do is fold your fabric selvage edges together. If you have a lot of binding strips to cut out, I recommend you fold your fabric in half again so that you can cut out multiple strips really quickly. Always straighten out this edge. Now I've already straightened it out, but what you would do is if your edges are crooked, pull this past this first line here, lay your ruler down on that line, line it up down there and up here, and then go ahead and cut this edge straight. Now as I said, I like to cut my binding a little bit wider than a lot of other people do, so I'm going to cut it 2 3/4. That's because these angles are weird, and I find if I have a little extra fabric, it works out better. So, cut. So if you have more strips to cut out, you would not move your fabric. You'd move your ruler over again, 2 3/4 inches, or whatever your measurement is, and cut more binding strips. Next step would be to trim your selvage edges off. So I usually stack 2 or 3 of my strips together and cut it all off at once. Then stitch your ends together. So you want to bring front sides together, stitch a 1/4 inch seam. Then press that seam open. Press all the seams open. After you've pressed all the seams open, then you want to fold all the strips together in one long chain, fold it in half, and press it with your iron all the way down the full length of the strip. Here's my pretend table topper. It's got all of these weird little corners on it. So what you're going to do is you're going to place the binding along the edge here. So you've got the raw edge against the raw edge of the table topper. When you come to the corners, put a pin near the corner, not right on the corner, but just near it. Maybe you're like a 1/4 inch away, 1/8 inch away. Okay, so I'm very near the corner. I'm going to turn it just a little bit again so I can do this next part easily. Take your binding and pull it around. And you're going to see this little fold here. It's right in here. Put your thumb or finger on top of it, and with a small pair of scissors, you're going to cut just the binding, and you're going to maybe do just a slight cut, about 1/8 inch. Okay, no more than, don't go up to a 1/4 inch, but about 1/8 inch. And you'll find that the binding will lay smoother as you go around the corner. Then continue pinning. Put another pin right on this side. Now you're going to have these little folds here. That's fine. You want it there. So as I said, you continue pinning. So I've got mine pinned all the way around. As you can see, all the little folds are on those corners. So let me get back here to the front, or to where we started. Now to bring the bindings together, overlap. And you're going to overlap about a 1/2 inch. So lay that down, take your scissors. Now I just eyeball it because I've been sewing for over 50 years. I know what a 1/2 inch looks like, so I'm just going to cut. But if you need to measure, go ahead and do so. Now in order to bring your two ends together, you might have to take a few pins out. So bring your binding ends together. So unfold them like this, okay? And you might have to just fold your table topper so you can easily bring those ends together. Place pins to hold the ends together and stitch about 1/4 inch across here. Take your pins out and finger press this seam open. You don't need to go to your ironing board, just finger press it open. Then fold your binding back in half and finish pinning it down on this edge. All right, now this is where I also differ just a little bit from other people, but you know, you're going to do what works best for you. But I like to do about a 3/8 of an inch seam. I like my binding to look just a little bit chunkier, and I find it's just easier to make it just slightly bigger. So stitch all the way around, and at all the corners, you want to just leave your needle down, lift up the presser foot, turn your table topper, lower the presser foot, and continue stitching. When you leave your needle down through your fabric, you don't lose your place as easily. So I'm going to meet you at my sewing machine. You want to do a few back stitches and go ahead and begin stitching along there. I like to remove the pins. I've broken way too many needles, so that's why I like to remove them. Now, right there you can see my little slit. I made this one a little bigger so you could see it better on camera. But I'm going to put my needle just above that slit right there, just above it, okay? And that's where I'm going to stop. All right, so now my presser foot automatically comes up when I stop, but if yours doesn't, please lift your presser foot, make sure that needle is down, and then turn it and begin stitching again. So that's how you stitch around those corners. So do that, go all the way around until you get back to where you started. When you're done, you're going to notice it looking like this. All right, now some of the little slits at my corners, I didn't cut them quite deep enough. So if you need to go in and just clip them a little more, that'll be fine. So these little folds here is how it should look. Now I want you to turn it over to the back and begin folding the binding over the edge and kind of tug on those corners a little bit as you do it. After you have the binding all pulled around over the edge, you're going to pin it down. So you're going to take the folded edge of your binding and bring it past this stitch line right there. If you don't bring that edge past the stitch line, the next step is not going to work for you. So make sure it's pulled well enough past. That's why I cut my binding just a little bit wider. So you would go ahead and just pin it down all along there. There again, I can feel that seam right there, so I know it's past. When you come to your corners, okay, you're going to have this little bit of a bump there. So my advice is to put a pin just past the corner, fairly close to the corner. Okay, and then take a straight pin and right on top of that corner, just hold the pin down. Then take your finger or thumb and push that bumpy fabric over the top of the pin. Then pin it. And you're going to have just a tiny little tuck there. And there's the little tuck. So you're going to have one of those at every corner. The next step is done at your sewing machine. So you're going to have the top side of your table topper facing up. And you're going to stitch in the ditch. That's where the binding and this fabric here come together. You're actually going to stitch on top of this fabric, but right next to the binding. It's right there in that ditch. So as you're stitching, when you come to corners, always leave your needle down, lift up your presser foot, turn your table topper, lower the presser foot, and continue stitching. And then you're done. If you are interested in doing the table topper, go to the green screen at the end of this video and click on the table topper playlist link. If you are interested in doing binding that goes around regular corners, there's a link also on that green screen called Fear of Quilt Binding. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click on thumbs up and don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click on that red subscribe button down there in the lower right hand corner of your screen. Enter your email address, click on that little bell so you receive email notifications about my latest video. I'm Cheryl and I'm so glad you came to my sewing room. See you next time and happy sewing!